How's it going again, everyone? Welcome to another video of Gwent with me, KBT. This one is about the muster ability, and I kind of glazed over this for some reason. I think it's because I play monster deck and I'm very used to muster abilities, so I kind of didn't think to make a video. However, it has changed a lot in New Gwent. There's a lot of variations that we kind of really need to discuss, so let's not discuss that. I'm going to talk about Old Gwent first. Old Gwent's muster ability was a very vague ability, and it kind of didn't tell you what it was going to do half the time, and it kind of got more complicated when Skellige got introduced as well. So when you played a card with muster ability in Old Gwent, it would play all the cards with a similar name under an archetype from your deck or your hand onto the battlefield. So if you had multiple of the same archetype muster ability cards in your hand, you're at a disadvantage card wise, because when you place one Crone Wisp-S, a Crone Brew-S would come out even if it was in your hand, which was bad, and the Crone Bitch-S would come out as well. So they were under the Crone archetype, so you place the Wisp-S and all the others would come out. And this happened for other archetypes too, like the vampires, the neckers, the ghouls. But there was an archetype or two which complicated matters a little bit. The Arrakis was one of them. It sort of introduced a hierarchy in the muster ability, which is a bit odd. The Arrakis Behemoth was like the big boss, and then there was 3 Arrakis underneath. If you played the Arrakis Behemoth, it would summon all the Arrakis. If you played just an Arrakis, then it wouldn't summon the Behemoth, because he was the big cheese that summoned all the small ones, and the small ones only summoned the small ones. And the same thing with Gaunter O'Dim and Gaunter O'Dim Darkness. Gaunter O'Dim was the big cheese that summoned the smaller ones, but if you placed the Darkness, then you would only get the Darkness. So that was a little weird issue that didn't really get explained. You just kind of had to figure it out. And then when Skellige got introduced, they didn't even have to have the same name anymore, similar names. You just got Ceres, this card here, I hope I pronounced it right because I'm terrible at that, you know by now. And she summoned Shield Maidens, which had nothing to do with her. At least not in Gwent terms. In Witcher 3 terms, they probably were quite relevant. But in Gwent, they didn't have the same name, so you started to have to guess what things were going to pull out. So that was a bit of an issue. They seem to have fixed that in New Gwent. There's a lot of information. It tells you exactly what's going to come out, what strength it is, and stuff like that, which is really nice. But that was Old Gwent muster ability. I didn't mean to talk about it for 3 minutes, but needed to be said. In New Gwent, we have quite a variation of muster abilities. They do different things, and I'm going to have to go over those. And although that can be complicated as well, we do have information about that. So hopefully it won't be too hard to understand, because they do give you good information all over the place. So before we get started in muster, we need to differentiate muster and spawn abilities and Death Wish. So for a muster, you need to have the cards that you want to muster out in your deck when you're building your deck. So if I have a Crone Wisp-S, I need to have Crone Brew-S and Crone Bitch-S in my deck for them to get mustered out. If I don't have them in there and I play Crone Brew-S, nobody's going to get pulled out. And when they die, they go to the graveyard. When they get removed from play, they go into the graveyard. Whereas spawn ability cards, these just get created from nowhere. You just get the cards from nowhere and they get played on the field, and there's evidence to show, at least for the spawn and the horde abilities, that they go into your graveyard as well. And this is the same with Death Wish. Death Wish is a spawn effect, which means they get created, not pulled from anywhere. Okay, now we've sorted that. So let's go over the 4 different types of muster ability cards that are in New Gwent that we've seen so far. And that is number 1. The most simplest muster ability. You place a card and it plays all cards of that type from your deck or your hand. So the very normal one, it just plays them from your deck or your hand. Number 2 is you place this card down, it summons just 1 copy of that card from your deck or your hand. And the example we've got is the Redanian Knight. He will summon 1 copy after you placed him, so you muster out 1 version extra. And if there's 3 on the board, he gets promoted. And I think 3 is the number of cards you can probably have in your deck. That's usually the case. So you kind of have to have 1 in your hand, or medic 1 out on a later date or something like that. Or copy it with the Northern Realms leader ability. But it only summons 1, it only musters 1 card out. So number 3 is a very similar ability. Our example card is Vez. When she is played, she will muster 1 blue striped scout, and it actually tells you the strength and what row they go on, which is really nice, from your deck. Now it doesn't say hand, so providing the description is right, it will just come from your deck, which is really nice. So if you've got one in your hand, it's safe. So this particular muster ability has a different looking icon. This one is a stack of cards with 1 card being drawn from it, like so. And this is because it's drawing a different card than the one you've placed. Previously with the Redenian Elite, which I called him Knight, he summons just another copy of himself, so it's just vague, you know, whatever you played, summon another one of those. Whereas now this is specific, summon this card which has a different name. Okay, so because it's a different card than the one you played, it has a different icon. There's another example of a card that does something like this, and that's the Operator. He has the same symbol, and he will play 1 random hero from your deck onto the battlefield immediately, and his counts as a muster ability. So be aware that this is counted as a muster ability as well. So the 4th and final one, the developer said is a Scoia'tael thing, so I'm pretty sure it's strictly Scoia'tael.
I want to hit you. There you go. All right, what do we go? So right now he's playing a medic, which will fetch. Okay, that's what Scoia'tael does. Scoia'tael, they're very annoying. They can come back from graveyard like that.
And that acts like a normal muster. You place it down and they all come onto the battlefield of that type, but they can come from the graveyard as well. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a strictly Scoia'tael thing, and they balance this by making the strength relatively low, 3 here on the Dol Blothrana Marksman, but they can come from the graveyard. So if they go into if you muster them out and they go into the graveyard, you could medic 1 out again, and all of them will get pulled out of the graveyard. So it's a very annoying tactic. So that is a very devastating style of muster. I think it's probably going to be Scoia'tael only. So they're all the muster abilities we've seen so far. Some really hard to understand things. Thankfully, we're going to get a lot of information every time we get a card. So hopefully it'll make a lot more sense. I hope I didn't miss anything that you guys wanted to know. Stay tuned for more Gwent content. Let me know what you think. If I did miss anything, let me know, and I will be sure to cover it again at a later date. And take care, guys. I will see you next time.